Hello and welcome to the video. So, we are going to do a bit of a continuation of what we have previously started, a bit of a series on mastering the Druid. The previous big video we just put out on this was a video on how to be the solo Druid high roller bear build. If you want to check that one out, look up in the top right of the video now, you'll see a link to that if you haven't already seen that one. Gives you a bit of an insight on what you can do in top end play with some of the best gear. Now for this particular video, we are going to go a little bit of a different direction. We're actually going to show you what it's like if you've just started out in the game, what you should be going for if you're trying to go in with essentially a gear score below 25, no gear lobbies, and just how these games should really play out for you as Druid. So I've made a whole new account for this one. I am just going to essentially give you the whole experience as if I was a brand new player, so you can really get a good idea of what we've got to do. So first and foremost, we are going to go head over to the Squire once we get into the game. Now the Squire is really great. The Squire allows you to essentially customize the type of gear that you start off with whenever your character dies. Now we've got a handful of different options here for the Druid. First and foremost, we need to equip ourselves some boots. We've got a few different options here. We've got old shoes, which allow us to open and close doors, interact with things a little bit faster. You've then got heavy boots, which is going to make us a little bit more powerful with our attacks and give us a little bit of extra health. We've got some adventuring boots here, which make us a little bit faster with our movements, so like our attacks and things like that. And then we've got wizard shoes, which make our spells more powerful. Currently our character has no shoes equipped, so that's why I'm drawing your attention to these, because we need to choose a pair of shoes that is best suited for us. I like the heavy boots. I think they are really good, just getting that extra health, extra damage. It just helps, you know, you can't go wrong with it. Now, we've already got a few things equipped here. We start off with a potion of healing, bandages, and then also a potion of protection. So this protects against physical damage. You can use these to heal up during the dungeon, and same with the potion there as well. Though the potion is a little bit better than the bandages, heals a bit more, and it also can heal up essentially all of your health, when the bandages will only work off like your red health bar. Now, we've got a few different options here for our weapons as well. Currently we've already got a ceremonial staff. The ceremonial staff is really good for healing, really great if that's what you're doing, but for just about everything else, it's absolutely useless. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to choose a weapon for our offhand as well. So we've got our healing implement essentially, and then we're also going to have our damage dealing implement. So the Castellon dagger is really nice if I want to be able to run up on people quickly and just stab them a few times and take them out, and also get away from targets. So, you know, much more mobility with this one. The mace does a fair bit more damage, a bit of a slower attack speed, takes more time to use, but it does have some really good armor penetration. The quarterstaff is an interesting weapon. It's a bit slower than all of them, similar damage to the mace, but the big trade-off here is you're actually getting a whole lot of extra range. So the quarterstaff does attack very fast. It's got like a 4-hit combo. It's a pretty cool weapon. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but it's definitely a decent weapon. And then finally you've got the Rondel dagger. Now this weapon actually has the highest damage out of any weapon in the game. It does not deal the most damage, but it does have the fastest attack rate. So that, as a result, means that its damage per second is actually higher than just about everything else. So I'm going to go with the mace. I'm a big fan of just going in and doing a few big hits on the head and finishing them off. I'm also going to bring in a crystal ball. You can use this as a spellcasting implement. It's going to make me a bit slower, unfortunately, with both of them out, but it does actually give me both additional weapon damage, and if I cast damaging spells, I also get extra magic damage on the spells from the crystal ball. So really good when I'm trying to hunt people down and sort of finish them off, those two. So once I've set up everything that I want to use, I can go ahead and click set base gear, and then I tap quick base gear, and then all those things will essentially get put into my inventory up over here. There are a few other things you can bring in here as well. For example, we have got a campfire. I'm going to go ahead and add one of them as well. They're really helpful to get your spells back and heal. And then we've got one extra slot here that we can still equip with something. Now, there are a few other things you can use here. For example, the flute is actually a blocking implement. You can also play it and do really poor music. Same with the lyre. The lyre you can technically hold out and you open things slightly faster. For some reason, opening things with one hand is actually more effective. Just hold a lyre and you'd understand, apparently. And then for the lute, well, that's kind of useless to us, doesn't really have any use. The drum I do actually find particularly interesting. I am going to bring a drum, because the drum can actually be thrown. So, with the addition of the drum, the druid actually acquires a throwing weapon. So if you've got somebody who's running away from you, you can't catch them, and you really just want to seal the deal with that final blow, you whip out the drum and you line up your shot. Simple as that. It's absolutely iconic if you can pull it off, but it's not an easy move, I'll say. Alright, so now that we have all of our gear set up, we can now go out of here. And you might think that we're ready to go to a dungeon, but we do actually have a bunch of quests that we should accept before we go to the dungeon. Now you can go in here and individually grab each of the quests from these guys, and you can also sort of see what their quest chains are like, get a bit of an idea of what you might need to do to go and unlock these other quests. Or if you wanted to sort of go through everything a whole lot quicker, don't really want to read through all the stuff in there, you can just open up the quest log. It's just down here in the bottom right on the play screen. So now that we've got all of our quests accepted, there's just a few more things that we got to get sorted before we get out into the dungeons. So we go over to the class tab, and we're just going to take a look at our perks and skills. Now, presently for the druid, we don't have to choose anything down here. As far as skills go, we've just got spell memory and we've got shapeshift memory. So essentially the ability to cast spells and the ability to turn into animals. Now, we do have a bunch of awesome perks here that we can choose from at the beginning. The default one that you will start with is natural healing. Now, I do actually recommend that you just go with the natural healing when you first start in this game. Healing is really hard to get your hands on. It's really common that you're going to take a lot of damage, and having this natural healing for yourself is actually really helpful. When I first started playing the druid, this is the first perk that I ran, and I found it just to be really good, especially when I was playing with some friends. It was just amazing at keeping us all topped up, especially considering my friends were just starting out playing in the game as well, and it's pretty damn common that you're going to get absolutely beaten up when you first start this game. But you can go through, look through all the perks, see which other ones there you like. As you start to level up, you'll be able to grab new ones in here and actually start putting in your other perk slots anyway. As for your spells, you might need to make a few selections here. Currently, the base set is not actually usable, as it all is. You have a cost limit here, which is based on your knowledge. Essentially, that unlocks you extra spell slots. Certain items can also have enchantments that give extra spell slots. What we need to do, essentially, is we need to go through and we need to add enough tiers that we get up, essentially, under our limit, somewhere under that, so we can use all of our spells when we get into the dungeon without having to find extra gear. So, I find Nature's Touch to be one of the best spells, the healing spell. It essentially increases your recoverable health, so you can get more uses out of your bandages, while also just healing you some health over time as well. So, really helpful there. Dreamfire is a combo spell. It actually works in conjunction with Nature's Touch. So essentially you cause an area of effect damage that does 15 points of damage, and if you've got targets who are affected by your healing spell, they immediately take 10 points of healing. So it's really good. Now, for the other spells that you can consider running, I would recommend when you're starting off to just to go with a bit more healing, so either Restore or Mending Grove. I do think Mending Grove is the better out of the two of them. It's just a very powerful healing spell, heals up a lot of health very quickly. Some of the other really good ones in here as well are Thorn Barrier. It allows you to create like an area essentially that prevents anyone from getting into it. However, if we're going to be taking in the bigger healing spells, we have to kind of make some choices here, just because Druid doesn't have that many spells in general. So if we are going to be bringing in, say, Mending Grove, when we bring in some other spells, we're not going to have access to, say, everything. Like, for example, Entangling Vines, we wouldn't be able to use right off the bat. But in all fairness, that's not the end of the world. And it can be a good trade-off when you're trying to get, say, more powerful, more impactful spells right off the bat. And in the case of Mending Grove, it's one of these ones that, well, look, healing is just worth its weight in gold. With a campfire as well, you can sit down and you can restore these spell charges, so you just end up with so much healing. You'll be able to make it through the beginning of the game, no trouble. The other one that I really like here is Thorn Barrier, just because it's going to create a way that we can sort of block off enemies from getting to us. We can essentially make it more difficult terrain. You can have multiple Thorn Barriers going at a time, and it just really can make some difficulty for players getting away from us. The final one that I'm going to bring is the Summon Treant spell. We're not going to be able to use it right away, but I do think the Treants are absolutely amazing, even after the nerf. I still highly recommend this spell. Definitely worth bringing this one along. Now, that's pretty much everything that we need to get sorted. So beyond that, we're just going to go ahead and wait till the dungeon rolls around to the Goblin Caves for solos. The Goblin Caves is a good dungeon to start off in. It was designed for solos. It's the easiest dungeon, so definitely the best place to be starting off in. And also a great deal of player versus player combat, so also a really good testing ground to get a feel for how those encounters are going to play out.
Alright, so here we are in the dungeon. Now you might actually notice a slight difference in the audio quality for those who have rather perceptive ears. I have actually changed the setup substantially. Hopefully it's a little bit more pleasurable to your ears, a little bit smoother, a little bit more buttery. That delicious saturated mess. I don't know why we refer to everything as smooth and buttery. Like realistically, if the things that you're hearing are buttery, if they hear like butter, I'm worried for you, genuinely. So what's the general gist with sub 24s anyway? Like what are we actually trying to do here? So my big thing when I come into a sub 24 dungeon is I'm just trying to loot everywhere. Like I want to make sure that I don't miss a single damn spot in every single room I go to. So that's kind of what we're going to go for here. We're not at like a particularly fast pace. We're not just running through rooms, killing enemies, walking from one to the next. Like legitimately, we need to search every single container and make sure that we don't miss anything. So that's what I'm going to do here. Let me know in the comment section down below actually if I do miss anything. If I don't notice here when I'm actually rewatching these things, I'm now doing this commentary after the fact, so we'll kind of see how that works out. I thought it might be more interesting if we do it that way. You know, if I could focus a little bit more then maybe, so we might be able to get a little bit more insightful commentary going on rather than me just doing like one thing to the next and sort of just rambling. Like that being said, I already just rambled, so you know, that's definitely nothing out of the ordinary there. I'm pretty sure I effectively loot everything in here. But look, if you do see something that I missed, let me know down in that comment section below. Hey, Vitriol, make sure you actually loot this bit next time. You gotta make sure you do that. Said no one ever, because who speaks like that? What kind of accent am I even invoking there? Who is this person? Like, I'm not sure if this person has any relevance towards like a real human being. Honestly, it sounds like if you ask an alien to make an impression of a human being, this is the impression you'd get. It's like if I just said, AI, can you put together an impression of a person? Honestly, AI would probably do a better job. AI would probably be more spot on. Now, these centipedes are a little bit scary at first, I suppose, because unlike every other enemy in the game, they don't just like die, you know, pretty damn quickly. They are a little bit of a mini boss. I'll say for new players, definitely something that you might want to steer away from, but at the same time, you'll see they are really, really, really easy to fight. Like, it's super straightforward, realistically. They've got only like 3 different moves that they can do. They've got a spit that sets out acid in 5 different directions. You can see all you got to do is crouch and duck down and look down essentially to get out of the way of that one. They've got a singular melee attack, which is kind of like a reel back and then do a swipe forward. It does a lot of damage, so, you know, woe betide you if you're hit by that one. And then finally, you can see there on the ground, it leaves behind an acid trail. Now, if you can master all 3 of these moves, you can just, you know, beat this guy out on any of your characters. It's super straightforward. Once you learn it on one of your characters, you'll be able to do it on all of them. Like, I definitely recommend you check that one out there. Well, I'm getting a lot of true physical damage there. That's some good luck, honestly. I'm not usually that lucky with the first few drops at getting true fizz damage. That being said, I'm not actually certain if true fizz damage actually affects your animal forms. I would have thought it did, but I read a YouTube comment the other day that suggested it did not. And I have not yet verified the validity of said comment. So also let me know in the section below if you know the answer to that one, because honestly I would appreciate some more conjecture. If there was someone who had some more insight there that they could offer, like I would definitely appreciate not just like the correction, but also pointing to the information for where you're drawing from. Now it's like, it's one thing to go ahead and say like, hey, here's the answer, this is what it is. It's another thing to show you working. Like a big thing with mathematics, for example, seeing as we just did a maths video, you can check that one out. It's all on luck. If you haven't already seen that, it's a really great insight on the luck in Dark and Darker. Yeah, so look, ultimately, if you do have the answer, my main takeaway here is, look, let me know, but also do show you're working. It's kind of like one of those important rules that I have as well, just for my general life. It's like, you know, you shouldn't just get the answer for something, you should understand why that is the answer, fundamentally. You know, you can even see the same philosophy brought through to my Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. Oftentimes, I will not accept a player at the table who just wants to have a dispute and say something like, oh, you know, that's not how it's meant to be. I've seen the rule otherwise in a different way, and I was like, all right, well, look, if that is the case, I'm more than happy to, like, you know, acquiesce and, you know, to take into the consideration something reasonable. But first, I'd just like to see the section from which you're referring to, because sometimes as well, people don't understand that things could be misunderstood. So maybe a second set of eyes might need to read over something to make sense of it, as was maybe the intended context. Oh, check this out. This is actually wild. I thought I could put a thorn barrier up and block that dude in the corner. But as it turns out, I don't know how to block him into a corner that way. Honestly, you can tell I don't use thorn barrier that much. It is a good spell, but like for my genuine kit, when I'm doing like my Druid bear build, it's just not one that usually makes it into my arsenal, honestly. I usually don't have the spell slots when I'm playing a Druid bear, so I'm gonna kind of sacrifice it and, you know, mainly go for the healing spells. But I do think Thorn Wall is insanely good. Although it is a little bit shorter now, easier for people to jump over. You couldn't really jump over it too reliably previously. Now that I think it's 120 units higher or whatever, it's pretty doable. Now, I do get pretty low here, honestly. Like, this guy's pretty challenging. You gotta be a bit careful with these guys, but look, fortunately, Druid does have so much healing that it is just not a problem in the slightest. You know, we can take a bit of damage, but, you know, we can heal up at the damage we've taken just as quickly. It's just a matter of bonking them. Now, these dudes are also really worth killing. I highly recommend you take on the Skeleton Champion every time you can get a chance. They drop not only lockpicks, like you just saw there, but they do have a chance to drop golden keys. And honestly, the golden keys are some of the best loot in the game. It's like a 1% chance on common dungeons or 3% on the high rollers, but it is well worth rolling that 1% chance every time, because if you do get it, especially early on in a season, golden keys can be worth upwards of like 5,000 to 8,000 gold. You know, sometimes it's nuts. I think right now they're worth like in the hundreds, maybe like 1,000, 2,000, somewhere in that, just because the season is almost over right now in Dark and Darker. But generally speaking, it's some of the best loot you can get in the game. There's skeleton champions on just about every level, so if you can master the art of killing skeleton champions, you can definitely find yourself getting a whole lot richer, a whole lot quicker early on in a season. That's probably like my #1 get rich quick scheme. Kill the skeleton champions. It's not too much to it, really. It's a very, very straightforward tactic. Oh, here you're gonna see the treant used to its full potential. You don't even have to like get the treant to fight. Just use him as a fireball blocker. It's really that easy. Summon him in, catch the fireball, job done. Alright, now I think we're gonna use the escape rope to get on out of here. We've done pretty well here. This is one of the best loot rooms in the game, in my opinion. I highly recommend seeking this area out. There's just so much good loot in here, so many good NPCs to kill. And honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. We didn't even really get down to the bottom level. I don't think we're gonna have enough time for that. So it's, ooh, nice, more lockpicks. We are certainly having a lucky run. At about 1 minute 10, things start to get a little bit dicey. You start taking damage for every time that level ticks, so it's usually better to get off it. So now we're out, we go ahead and we just hand in all of our quests. We make sure that everything there is all sorted. Lovely. And once we've done that, well, we'll just go and sell everything off. You can see we've got like a pretty decent profit from everything here. For the first run there, we've ended up with 246 gold. We get a whole new set from the Squire. And then hell, we're ready to go again, a whole new grey gear. We're going once in each dungeon here, just to give you a bit of a feel for what they're like. Now, the Crypts was the first dungeon that the Dark and Darker devs ever made. So this one was made under the philosophy that it was intended for 3 versus 3 gameplay. Well, that was a bit weird. The axe hit me, but I didn't actually hear any connection. It was some sort of DC issue sometimes. The blade and the weapon hits you, but you don't actually hear it hit you. It's very strange. Usually to do with very slight lag, that sort of thing. But yeah, the Crypts was intended for 3 players, so it is a little bit tougher for a solo to jump right into the Crypts compared to, say, like the Goblin Caves, which was designed around the idea of being the map for solo players. That being said, just because this map was intended for 3 people doesn't mean you can't go through it solo. I think it just requires a little bit of respect, a little bit of recognition. Just be aware that you are on a tougher map. You know, if you're just running from room to room without too much care, you're very quickly going to pull on a lot of enemies. Unlike the Goblin Caves, where, you know, you can quickly get rid of them as well, the enemies here are a whole lot tougher. There's a whole lot more of them. They're all over the damn shop. So, definitely wise to be a bit more careful in that regard. Now, this little secret room is 100% worth going into. Almost always find some really good loot in here. There's a gold chest pretty much every time. And it's not really hard to deal with the 2 enemies that spawn in here. You get a death skull and you get a mummy or a zombie. So, pretty easy. There's even a bit of wardweed hidden behind the back here as well. So, definitely one of the easier ways to get some high quality chests. Oh, you know what? That diamond is an absolute shill. It's a total fake. And I also realized I totally just missed an item. Did you see it back there? Because I just did. Maybe I shouldn't reveal what it is. Look, maybe I should leave it to only the perceptive people to notice. Alright, I will for the next one, but that one was in fact a bandage. There was a hidden bandage behind the back of that thing. That's why you gotta go slow. Really pay attention to the floors, the surrounding areas. There is stuff hidden all over the place in this map, on every map. And it's only gonna be found by those who have got keen eyes and keen senses, really. Because sometimes it's more than just using your eyes, sometimes it's also using like your good sense and thinking, where would I hide? Where would I hide this stuff? And if you think like that, you'll find it pretty quick. I only have 1 torch, I've just realized as well. I didn't get my stuff back from the Squire, I just went straight on in, so we are kind of just going by the seat of our pants. And I think I've kind of goofed up a bit here. I didn't listen to my own advice from just a moment ago in the whole idea of take it slow, don't pull a ton of enemies at once, and then look at that, holy moly, right down to what looks to be like 1 health point. Now, I'd just like to point out, I would have survived there solely from the fact that I was using the Druid heals, and also I have passive healing. So, I guess that just shows you how clutch the passive healing really is, because if I didn't have that extra little point or 2 of health, well, I'd be done for. It also just shows how strong the Druid class is, really. Like, the survivability on this class is so good. You know, you take a lot of hits, but it really doesn't matter. You can heal back up so quickly. So much healing. And I'm really having a hard time hitting this guy here. Realistically, if you're getting up with the table, you want to use a longer weapon. Having the little mace is not, the flange mace there is not the best. That's alright. We're getting through it. Eventually, hit by hit, we whittled them down. It is kind of like at the journey of 1,000 steps. It takes a very long time when you're using these weak weapons, but that's alright. You know, it's I think being ultimately up on the table is still the better way to go there rather than just fighting them generally. I feel like it is a little bit easier to just do like the crouch jumps when they do their attacks. Doesn't always work out so well, as you can see. If you pull too many of them, you'll very quickly get overwhelmed and won't be able to do your crouch jumps accordingly, but I think generally speaking, it is like a really, really solid way to go. This room here has got like some really good loot in it. I make sure to always come to this room right now as well, like because we've only got 2 different variants of the crypts. I feel like this is actually like one of the best areas you can go to in the crypts as well. You come down here into the barracks, you kill that skeleton warlord, and then you head to the east straight after, and you go to the old tomb, which also has another skeleton warlord in it. And as we saw previously, they can be really, really difficult, but they are really well worth it. If you drop one of those golden keys, or if you get one of those drops, I should say, it is just stupendous. Those things are absolutely amazing. I do actively seek them out every single time I come in here. I'm just gonna make sure we clear everything out here as well, make sure we've done a full clean sweep of the area. These goddamn zombies are some of the most annoying things in this game. I actually hate the smoke clouds with an absolute passion. Like, the super slow ones, they're really easy to dodge now, but I tell you what, once you get like 4 or 5 of these zombies, they end up being like some higher tier zombies as well. They run at you, they create not 1, not 2, but 3 fast moving smoke clouds, and sometimes, I tell you what, these things are supposed to be random, but I tell you what, sometimes they feel sentient. They just are super fast moving, they hunt you down, they don't leave you alone, and it's like, they just melt your health. It does so much damage, and for a druid bear build player, especially, it's like nigh impossible to not get in one of those smoke clouds. Like, the bear booty is just so damn stupendously huge. It is just landing in everything. So yeah, I have a big hatred for the zombies. Might have to get a stinky stick one day. The unique weapon that essentially makes you immune to poison clouds, and create them, so you become one. Now this is the old tomb. There's a little bit of a trick here that you can use against this particular enemy. What I do is I bring them up to some stairs, and every time they do an attack, I just do a little crouch jump, and you kind of just, you know, jump up and down every single attack, because all of their attacks are kind of arched. They're kind of aiming downwards in that sense, so with a perfectly timed crouch jump, you know, you just go ahead and dodge them every time. It makes it a really, really straightforward fight. I think there is technically a way to fight them by crouching underneath them as well, although I've just always found taking them to stairs is easier, because almost every wraith in this game is near some sort of stair. And that being said, the druid itself doesn't have a particularly hard time fighting the wraith anyway, because if you go into your bear form, every time the wraith attacks, you can do a right click with the bear and also dodge the attack as well. So a lot of great ways that you can fight the wraith as a druid, I'll say. A lot of easy ways to take them on. At this point, I'm starting to run a little bit short on time, but there are some really, really good chests in this room, so I am just doing my best to just haul ass and really power through this section here. I don't want to waste much time, so, you know, I'm not bothering to heal back to full. I just want to get through it as quickly as possible, search those chests, and then get out of here before things get a little bit too dicey. Haven't actually bumped into anyone as of yet as well. Been pretty chill so far as runs go. Damn, that's a fair bit of gold. Getting the pressure put on me right now to try and figure out what to drop. Obviously, get rid of the maggots. I don't know why I even have maggots. I'm like a compulsive hoarder in this game. I see maggots on an enemy and I'm like, oh, I'll take those. That's useful, surely. I think I need a few mags. Yeah, really that simple. All right, well, we're gonna get out of here with a fair bit of time to spare. I'm not gonna cut it too tight when we're, you know, just starting out. I want to make sure we get out of every dungeon here, make sure that we get all the loot we can.
And that's a pretty good haul for our second match, I'll say. I haven't had to come against any players as of yet. We'll also hand in all of our quests.
I like to get in the habit of just going through and clicking everything. That way, I don't miss anything. So look, I'm a bit of a scatterbrain. I forget to click on stuff, so doing this just guarantees that I'll hand it all in. We get a pretty good haul for the second dungeon as well. We're just peeking over that 500 gold mark, or once we sell the instruments as well, right up past 600. We'll go and grab a full free set again from the Squire. Always good to go and refresh on that. And seeing as we got back a surgical kit, we might as well bring that one in with us as well. Just make sure we got a little bit of extra healing just in case we need it. You never know. Not a bad thing. Alright, so we're in the ice dungeons here. This is my favorite dungeon, I've got to be honest. I have played a lot of this dungeon. Might have been the one I've actually played the most out of every dungeon. It was the first dungeon that I was ever able to get Demigod in. I was playing my fighter back in the first season, and I don't know, something about this dungeon when it first released, I just loved it. It was a little bit tougher, I felt, than some of the other dungeons, but it also felt more approachable than Crypts for some reason to me. Not sure exactly why, but it always had a very, very fond place within my heart. Either way, it's now become my dungeon of choice. I just feel like, although it is a little bit tougher, the loot here is well worth it. There's just so much good loot in this dungeon. And look, you just got to be careful like any other dungeon. You know, just make sure you don't pull too many enemies. This dungeon is really, really, really punishing in that sense. That, you know, if I go ahead and let's say I pulled like 3 or 4 skeletons, all it takes is a few hits and now I've lost all my move speed, I've lost all my attack speed, and essentially I'm just getting railed by skeletons now. So you got to be really careful in this dungeon. That's probably the biggest difference there, really. Well, that's unfortunate. A locked chest right off the get-go. I really like this particular room. I didn't know when I first started. I kind of stayed away from the fog that used to be in here. But I didn't know that there was actually just so much good loot down here. Like 2 chests. Wow, that sucks. Both of them have locks on them as well. I have 1 lockpick, but it seems that I have actually forgotten that I brought that in with me. My brain has just totally blanked the fact of it. Or maybe I'm trying to save it for the chest over here. Now, I heard the players at this point of time, I didn't really want to go hunt players down. I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. You know, I didn't want to ruin some new Andy's time when they're going through, having a good time. Timmy just, you know, on their first game, whatever it is. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but look, I thought I'll stay vigilant. If they charge out at me, I will definitely be ready to take them on. So I come up here every now and then just to double check they haven't made the break. Suddenly sprinting at me while I'm getting shot, you know, that wouldn't be a really good idea. To be fighting an NPC at that point, that would just get me railed. So I'm just gonna make sure I keep my health nice and sturdy. What you saw there was actually one of my favorite maneuvers, the Panther Chicken double jump. If you haven't tried that one out before, oh my lord, is it a good technique. It's very, very strong. Just the mobility you get from that, the ability to move from one side of the ring to another in like half a moment. Players who have seen the Druid a fair bit will know about it, but players who haven't, they won't see that stuff coming. And you can even chain it on to a third move, like you can turn into a panther at the end again to, you know, get ready a hit, or you can turn into a bear, which I like the most, so you can land on them with all that momentum in your bear form. I feel like that's 100% the way to do it. So I'm just still being a little bit wary. I don't want to explore too far into that room because I feel like I'll bump into that guy. And I also did leave behind a big old chest here, so I'm hoping that I might be able to get that chest as well. Although, first we're going to take out this guy. He's in the way. But he doesn't really want to play around with me today. He wants to play silly buggers. Very, very strange. I decided, you know, there was still a lot of dudes in that area. I felt a little bit risky about pulling the mini boss guy and fighting him, just because God forbid I pull him and then like a few players, you know, might run through or something and try and get me. So I was figuring it might actually be wiser to leave the mini boss there, because he does actually act as a type of deterrent. So if there's a player that's coming through from the top section, if they're not careful, they might actually trigger him, or they might just be totally wary and just not want to come into the room. So my hope was that if I sort of just left him there, we might be able to discourage the other people that might be coming this way. At least I'm thinking that. Look, honestly, it's been like it's been a little while, like since I filmed this video. So I don't know. At this point, who knows? Who freaking knows? Because that was a totally different man to the man I am today. You know, I thought he died here actually when he first fell down. I was confused for a moment. Also, petition to have Dreamfire actually shoot the whole way up, because it's not actually a giant beam, it's only a little AoE on the floor. And I feel like it's a giant beam of light, it should hit the whole pillar. It's like lightning bolt in my mind. Lightning bolt should work just like that as well. It shouldn't be like the ground that it hits, it should be like the whole pillar that you're shooting. So you could hit multiple enemies in like a vertical space with it. Which ultimately I feel like is a bit of a buff for these spells, but I don't know. Verticality isn't like a massive factor in this game. Like in the sense that I don't think you're going to be quite often in a situation where you'll even have the opportunity to finesse 2 hits on, you know, 2 enemy players or 2 enemy mobs. But that being said, I think adding the potential for it would be pretty cool. We're dealing with these kobolds here without too much trouble. I always grab the little necklaces they have. I always grab their ears. Not only are they quality quest items, they do actually sell for a fair bit. And the fact that you can stack these items means that they're actually a really, really good item to pick up and sell. I think the ears sell for something like 10 to 12 gold each or something. I don't remember exactly, but you know, that's like a 32 gold in a stack. Like, that's pretty damn good. I'm being a little bit cautious where I set up my campfire here, so I'm putting it out of the way just so no one else can see that, you know, what's going on here. That's kind of the idea there anyway. Those other players never really revealed themselves though, for what it's worth. Kind of just quieted down. We didn't really see any extra signs of them. So I make a good effort in trying to like make sure I've cleared the whole area here, so I'm going to go through and get all the good chests down here as well. There's a lot of big chests in this area. These skeletons are actually the worst. As much as I love the archers, I do also hate them. That freaking melee bash attack they do, I seem to be really, really good at getting hit by it. Now, like, it shouldn't be that hard, realistically. You just backstep whenever they attack. You walk in a little bit, bait the attack, and then walk back, but no, I'm not coordinated like that. That is not within my skill set, unfortunately. Occasionally, I believe a few golden chests can spawn down here as well, so definitely worth coming down here to get an idea of what's going on down here, because God forbid you miss out on a golden chest. Those things are worth their weight in gold. Oh, I think I've caught wind that there might be someone a little bit near. I've actually got my sound not at the maximum sense, so I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Did I just hear something in game? I gotta turn up my sound to double check. I don't want to like record some sort of a commentary track and then also have like sound blasting in my ears, because otherwise I feel like I'm going to be yelling into the microphone.
So for our third and final dungeon, we were able to get pretty good haul once again, with some pretty decent items to sell, as well as just a fair bit of treasure. We best hurry up and sell, for the devil themselves has come down to, for some reason, forsake my gold pile. Alright, there we go. The number of the beast has now ceased, and we are seeing that after 3 games, we can actually end up with a pretty sizable amount of treasure. Pretty good hauls all around, especially if we're not taking our gear back in, which is, you know, was kind of the whole goal here, just showing you what you can do, you know, in these casual dungeons. Just go in with nothing, just use whatever you find, just make the most of what you can get there. Even got a few extra instruments to sell as well. Pretty good overall. And got a fair bit of quest stuff as well that we can hand in. After those 3 runs, we find ourselves at level 14. We have nearly got enough EXP to be on the way to level 15, so we've nearly unlocked all 4 of our perk slots, so we'd be on the same power level as other players in that sense. And as far as gear goes, we've done pretty well, nearly entirely filling our stash without, you know, organizing it at all. We've got nearly 1,000 gold pieces in total, and a bunch of green gear as well that's pretty good for our character, as well as a few blue items that we might sell if we had the option. Once we get to level 20, we might put them on the market, or, you know, we could just sell them to these guys, maybe trade them to some friends, who knows. Either way, I'm not sure if we'll come back to this character, but you get the idea. You know, it doesn't take too much time to go and get to level 14 or go and get on the same playing field as other players, and, you know, if you're going in with nothing, it's really no risk and, you know, huge rewards really to be made. Massive gains. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like on the video, as it helps other players just like you find this content, and hopefully then they can also find a little bit of wisdom inside it too. If you want to see more of this type of content, make sure to subscribe. Hit that bell icon as well, otherwise you might miss out on future videos. And if you want to see more videos like this or other stuff, then stick around. You should see one played up next for you, or there'll be one on the screen for you to click on. Thank you so much for watching. Go out there, have a wonderful day today, and I hope you spread some love in the world.